What I found was amazing.
Wow. There it goes. Oh, it's heavy. Oh, wow.
Oh, God! I have not seen this before. This is absolute ball-tearing stuff.
Let's clear it up straight away. Yes, it is Ming. This is, historically incredibly important.
A bronze infant Buddha figurine found in the red dirt in historic Shark Bay is confirmed tonight as a rare Ming Dynasty relic, making it a world treasure.
It wasn't only you found the baby Buddha, but in some way, the moment found you.
Gold!
What if the road was built 20 metres this way and gone over the top? It would never have been found.
But the moment that he picked it up, he got goosebumps.
To me, that it goes beyond being a piece of metal. It's just an incredible, sacred relic that has gone for 500 years and hopefully will continue for another 500 years.
The treasure is not the Buddha. The treasure for us is the story.
We're on the right path of returning the Buddha to somebody else that will be the future custodians that have a connection to Buddha rather than Buddha ending up in the museum.
Thanks for joining us, Leo and Shane. Very nice to meet you in the person. We have a phone interview, I think 10 days ago, right? Yes. Yeah, so I'm very glad to see you guys in here. Thank you for driving like a 9 hour or 10 hours.
It's our pleasure to be here. We're honoured to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
The first question, so before we talk about the baby Buddha itself, we'll probably start with you guys as storytellers. So I know you guys running filmmaking and documentary style projects in the remote areas, coastal areas like Shark Bay or anywhere. So on that trip to the Shark Bay, what story were you chasing for, and what was the original plan on that day before the baby Buddha appeared?
Yeah, we do lots of nature documentaries, like sharks and dolphins, but we also do quite a lot of history. And the Shark Bay region has an amazing history. Obviously going back to the Dutch, in the 1600s, but also the French came, and not a lot of people know that. And the French voyage was a Napoleonic voyage. So Napoleon sent a scientific voyage out to Shark Bay, and one of his crew left behind some treasure. So that's what we were actually looking for. So we're expecting to find French treasure, and instead we're finding lots of beer cans and ring pulls. It's Australia. And then Shane got the biggest hit.
Yeah, and we were using metal detectors that we'd not used very much before. And yeah, it was quite interesting. But the whole story about this is being about telling stories. We wanted to tell the story about the French because that was pretty amazing. They came here in 1772 by ship and basically left a bottle on Dirk-Ardagh Island claiming Western Australia for the French. But they didn't follow through, and that's a story not a lot of people know about. So those are the sort of stories
You're trying to find out and trying to tell. So looking back at that day in Shark Bay, do you ever feel it wasn't only you found the baby Buddha, but in some way, the moment found you?
Yeah, I think it felt that way, that we were right by a road. You don't expect to find treasure by a road. That's why we're pulling up beer can after beer can. But it was a good way to test the metal detectors, because then you get a feeling for what the metal detectors are detecting, and you go, oh, that's a beer can. And therefore, that was the surprising thing, is that when you're not looking for something, occasionally that's when you find something.
We deliberately looked somewhere we knew we wouldn't find treasure. So because making a documentary, like if we were to find the Napoleonic treasure, we wanted our surprise to be real, to be captured by the camera in that moment. And you can act that again, but it's never the same. So we deliberately looked where we knew we wouldn't find anything, and we found a treasure so much more priceless.
Yeah.
So Yeah,
And
it does feel like it found us in a way. It's a crazy, crazy.
I guessing you still remember that's the very first reaction when you see that treasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just, because it was an impacting time because of the glint of gold, and I've never found anything metal detecting that was gold before, and that's the holy grail for metal detecting, is to find gold. So suddenly find something that was gold, but that was just more than gold, was pretty amazing.
So probably it's covered by sands. So
Yeah.
you thought, oh, it's gold, or it's more than that.
Yes, yeah, well that's right. With the
I will become a millionaire,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. Well, you never know when you're looking for treasure, and the fact that it was really close to a road made me think, what if the road was built 20 metres this way and gone over the top? It would never have been found. So we're just very fortunate that we were there at that spot at that time.
Yeah, the metal detectors make a certain sound for different metals. It's how you know what to dig and when. So if you're getting lots of beer cans, you learn the sound, and you learn probably don't need to dig that. But from the moment the sound passed over, very different, like a big bell or a gong going off. So straight away, before Shane even dug, I think you were well aware that it was something significant. It was something out of the ordinary.
Yep. Worthwhile getting the mobile phone out and start recording. And then that's, in metal detecting terms, they call that a live dig. So you're actually revealing the object, not afterwards, but as you're digging it. So that's what that video sort of shows. Wow. There it goes. Oh, it's heavy. Oh, wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So finding this Asian piece must have feel like what just mentioned, excited and probably unexpected the discovery, right? So discovering this statue brings a sense of responsibility to you. And if so, how and when it happened?
Well, I think when I first found it, I kind of like knew it was old. It was heavy, it was covered in gold, it had that idea of the age to it. It wasn't until we went back and saw our mate Nick, and he was the one that held it. And he sort of knew it was old as well, but he saw and felt the spiritual side of it. So that's the very first time that we thought, this is just more than just a relic that you find when you're metal detecting. Because I find things that are belt buckles and bullets and coins, and they all had a use. But to find infant Buddha that was a spiritual relic, yeah, it was totally different. And I think it was started with Nick. Definitely.
Yeah, Nick was a very, as Shane said, a spiritual man. He was also a community leader for us, so brought community together. He was very good at that. And he also was very interested in Buddhism, funnily enough. So he used to actually come to the Buddha's birthday celebrations and bring his family and bring his children. And I don't think he recognised it as Buddha. We didn't know what it was. But the moment that he picked it up, I don't know if you know the word, but he got goosebumps on his body. Like he had a physical reaction to picking it up. So that was for us something
That's kind of like a spiritual thing.
Yeah, a spiritual thing. You know, we didn't feel that when we picked it up. We knew it was gold.
So that's your first reaction.
Well, it's gold and it's heavy. It's very heavy. So Indiana Jones type treasure. That's straight away. It's Hollywood. It was very Hollywood. But to take it home and see the emotional response from our very good friend who we respected a lot, that's when we knew it was something a little bit different and that we were going to perhaps have a responsibility that we didn't think we'd have when we first found it.
Okay, so just you mentioned your best friend Nick probably have some connection with the Buddha. So Buddhism began as something that came from outside China, but over time it blended into Chinese civilization, art, daily life, and even the people of the think. So my question is, you probably learn about this more than me from Nick or from your best friend. So have it given you a deeper understanding of this statue? If so, could you share that understanding for our?
Yeah, certainly. Having had it dated to being Ming Dynasty and the fact that it's 500 years or longer, the thought that went through my mind is how many generations have paid veterance to Buddha on Buddha's birthday. This actual statue having water poured over his shoulders, as the people have said the mantra, say good words, do good deeds, think good thoughts. 10 generations may have paid veterance, and it may have been in one family that Buddha was passed down over the generations. To me, that it goes beyond being a piece of metal. It's just an incredible sacred relic that has gone for 500 years and hopefully will continue for another 500 years.
That act of holding the Buddha in reverence by those generations after generation of family, in our mind it fills the Buddha with their spirit. So that was something that made us feel that we had to be very careful about the respect that we showed and whatever we did with it next. So, yeah.
When you have got a moment, have you tried to sit with the Buddha in silence or quietly? If so, did that Buddha tell you something beyond the age, value, or nationality? How do you feel?
I think so. I think with what we've learnt about Buddhism, that calmness, that idea of just doing good by people. When I've had Buddha sort of situated in my home and he's just there, there is a calming factor, and it's through the look of Buddha, and especially because it is infant Buddha. It's it's there, and it just feels relaxing.
What about Leo?
Yeah, certainly this is probably something controversial and also political as well, but it is part of something in me that's changed, because my first viewing of the Buddha, when I first saw it in his position of enlightenment, when he acknowledges his dominion over the heaven and the earth, the significance of those raised arms. For me, this was a sort of thing that you would bury if you were like the French, like the Dutch, like the English, laying claim to Australia, saying that we are here and we own this. And the interesting thing is that every single Chinese person that I've spoken to, all of the academics, have all pointed out very quickly that that's not what Buddha is about. Buddha is not about owning things and collecting things and material things. So that's, I think, the lesson that we have learnt from owning a treasure, is that perhaps, the treasure is the story of this Buddha, and us learning to let go is perhaps going to make us richer men, maybe not financially, but in spirit. Honouring our friend is something which we will go to our graves feeling proud about.
Thanks for sharing that. I remember last time we have an interview, at the phone interview, you mentioned you took this baby Buddha in some Buddhist event, and some people feel very visibly moved, tears in their eyes. So I'm wondering what it was like for you to witness those reactions.
When we had Buddha on display at the Buddha's birthday and multicultural festival, I probably wasn't expecting the reaction that he was going to get from the people that were there. I knew they'd come up and perhaps just a bit like a museum, they'd see the statue and go, oh, it's, that's lovely. But when they were coming up and paying reverence to the Buddha and having thoughts and things like that, that was impacting. And like Leon said, a few people were crying to see something like that, and said that it's unbelievable in their lifetime they could see an infant Buddha, from the Ming dynasty. So very, very, very impacting, very emotional for us, and that's what has made us know we're on the right path of returning the Buddha to somebody else that will be the future custodians that have a connection to Buddha, rather than Buddha ending up in a museum.
Yeah. So what about Leon? Did this response surprise you as well?
Yeah, it certainly did. I think for me it was the Vesak Day, the celebrations at Parliament House. So it was the very first time that Buddha's birthday had ever been held in the West Australian Parliament. So we were honoured, you know, to be invited to attend it. But for me it was the old monks, so who know English, you know, at all. So we couldn't communicate, you know, by speaking, you know, very well. But they managed to get us to get into a position on the steps of Parliament where I was bending over. He was like helping me bend over so that he could take the Buddha and bless us with it, place the Buddha on our head. And that once I
Trying
realised,
using our body language.
well, once I realised that's what he was trying to do, it was quite an emotional experience for us. That was something we didn't expect to have happen.
So after saying how deeply people responded, or the thing you just mentioned, so what's the one meaning or significance you most want to protect and would not let go?
Just the cultural significance of Buddha to so many people. So for us to find it, show our circle of friends, put it underneath the bed, would be such a wrong thing to do. This Buddha needs to now go out and be seen by a lot of people. Get this story gets told about where it come from, because we're really mindful that the Melgana people of Shark Bay, with 10,000 years experience and living in that location, were the custodians of Buddha for a period of time as well. And our mate Nick sort of told us that. So the idea that now it's going to go on to a new custodian will make us very, very happy.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that I would not let go of, and we say it together all the time, is that the treasure is not the Buddha. The treasure for us is the story. And the story is a story that tells of a multicultural Australia. It tells of Chinese people and Malaysian people and Afghan people, Arab people. All of those people with the Mulgana people and the European people live together in Shark Bay and work together in Shark Bay. And that's the story that has created the Australia that we all love. So that's what we want the story to be around the Buddha, is that story of the fact that we found not just a treasure but a first contact artefact. And that's a story that isn't being told enough in Australia.
So through the baby Buddha, this story has moved from the private into the public eye. So you have described yourself as custodians, right? So what does being custodians ask of you, emotionally, ethically, and practically?
Practically is to look after Buddha first of all. So we've always had him in a safety deposit box, realising the value of it, not the monetary value, but just the value of the find itself. I think understanding and learning respect as well, that we don't tread on any toes or upset anyone. If we're disrespectful, we wouldn't do that intentionally in any way, but also there's the possibility you could do it unintentionally, which we wouldn't like. So we've made sure that we sort of try and find out what cultural things are necessary, and it's a learning process, and I'm loving being involved in that process because I'm learning more about other cultures, and at the same time we're taking our friends on the journey who are learning with us at the same time that may have not known that before.
What about Leon, from the emotional perspective? What's the thoughts from you?
From being a custodian of the Buddha, it has been a great honour, undoubtedly one of the great honours of our life, but it does take its toll as well. It's not always positive. We would certainly, when it first came out, because we were filming, because we were filmmakers, so because we found something so fantastic and something so Hollywood in a world where everyone wants to get likes on the internet, people didn't believe us. So we were called some pretty horrible names, you know, on social media and accused of being liars and frauds. So that wasn't great as being part of a custodian. The good part is the doors opening to communities that you've never been a part of. We grew up in a multicultural community, and the warmth that the Chinese community has embraced us with has been really probably the best thing about being a custodian. The worst thing would be the financial side of it. I think I touched on it last time, and it's not something we have often mentioned, to be honest, but this is almost our 10th year now, and we live 800 kilometres away. Every time we drive down, you know, it's more petrol and more hotels, and then airfares to England and to the East Coast to speak to academics and to hire laboratories. So we've had to have talks with our family, you know, about how we spend that money, and we're happy with the choices we've made.
Totally.
We wouldn't change it at all. You know, it's, as we said, the treasure is not the object, it's the story, and this has been an investment in an interesting life where I'm going to be the most boring person at dinner parties for the rest of my life, because this is all that I'll probably talk about.
I can tell Leon probably more emotional, and Sean probably more practical.
Very much so.
Our relationship.
Yes.
He's the one that does the romance. I'm the one that does the
finish, the cover.
And the dates.
Every mistake.
All the filing, everything is perfect, and yes, I'm just here.
We're a good balance.
Yes, definitely, I can tell. So, Shane just mentioned this is kind of the learning process, and you mentioned the respect and probably peaceful. So my question, probably this is very random. So, you know, the history can carry some difficult memories, but do you think that art and culture can make people talk and listen in a calmer way? So what do you think the peace and respect for you personally in this kind of dialogue or situation?
Yeah, I think we really have to understand our past to get an idea of what's going to happen in the future. And we can gloss over what's happened in the past, but that doesn't do any good. I think if we explore what's happened in the past, and there's things that happened in Shark Bay between the English and the Chinese in the 1800s that wasn't good, but out of that there's some things that have happened that were absolutely amazing. Is that in 1886 the Chinese pearlers had built up enough money, they had their own fleet of ships. They had 12 pearling boats. They had their camps on Dirk-Hartog Island, and they were set, and they were, you know, sort of getting a lot of pearl shell, getting a lot of pearls, and being very, very successful. The English camp, which was 2 kilometres away, didn't like the idea that the Chinese were fishing really, really well. So they decided that they were ultimately going to go to war between both camps, the Chinese and the English. What happened is the magistrate over at Carnarvon sailed across in his schooner, parked his schooner between both fleets, and then negotiated a settlement. Now the settlement was the Chinese were paid out by the government and for £2,000, and the government got their ships, got their shacks and the equipment. They were put on a ship and sent out of Shark Bay. Now, the amazing thing about that, at that time, the land surveyor in Perth was John Forrest, who would then become the Premier of Western Australia years later. He stood up in Parliament and basically said it would be un-English of us not to pay the Chinese properly, which at that time was unheard of. But he stood up for the Chinese back then. So understanding what's happened in the past is important for us to go forward in the future, and that's the feeling that I get, that Buddha's enabled us to tell that story.
So,
yeah, Chinese people and Aboriginal people have had a very similar shared experience in colonial Australia, and it, in a lot of ways, hasn't been a particularly good or fair one. There is a reticence, a hesitation for people to speak about that, especially in the media, because they feel that it somehow weighs them down with a sense of responsibility. But I don't think that that's the case. I don't think we can be responsible for the actions of our ancestors. What we can do is in good faith, acknowledge those events, and similar to what happened with the federal parliament and the Aboriginal people, saying sorry. Saying sorry doesn't mean you take responsibility for whatever those acts were. It acknowledges that those acts were wrong, that people were treated unfairly, and I don't think you can be friends unless you do that. So that's for us is what this Buddha does as well. It gives us a chance to move forward, to tell these stories openly and honestly, and to also talk about the good times. The fact that there were no massacres of Aboriginal people by Chinese people in Australian history. It's been a very harmonious relationship, and that's something our Mulgana elders talk about, is the fact that it was a good relationship with the Chinese, with the Malays, and so good that some Aboriginal people ended back up in Southeast Asia, actually travelled there. So these are, again, the romantic stories, the ideas of Aboriginals leaving in the late 1700s and early 1800s to travel as far away as Southeast Asia is something most Australians wouldn't know.
So, as you have worked in remote areas, have those experiences helped clarify caring for something is much more matter than claiming it? So, how was that line drawn for you here?
That's a great question. And the way that Shane and I met was because we cared about conservation. Our oceans, it's when the government put a policy in to kill sharks because sharks were bad. And that's not what the science says, and it's changed now over the past 20 years or so. But when Shane and I first met, it was a very different story. And we helped change that story. We helped turn the tide about conservation around sharks. And I think that by caring for something, it really changed the course of our lives for a much better, for a much more positive experience. We suddenly found ourselves with a worldwide connection of scientists and conservationists, and suddenly working in amazing documentaries because of this. We've now worked in documentaries for for the BBC, for Sir David Attenborough, the Blue Planet series, which was the most widely watched documentary on the face of the planet in the history of documentaries. We had President Barack Obama narrate our last documentary, all on conservation, and none of that would have happened if we hadn't cared for things, cared for our town, cared for our community. And Buddha's just a natural extension of that.
Yeah.
He's part of the most exciting story, perhaps, the most exciting untold story.
Yeah.
Thank you using that word, untold story.
And helping to tell it. That's what we hope to do. We have skills as filmmakers, so
and I think Buddha's teachings say that caring is contagious, and we saw it with stopping the shark cull back in 2014. There was 6,000 people on Cottesloe Beach saying we do not need to kill sharks to make people safe. Leon spoke in front of 6,000 people with his passion and romance for it, and it was an incredible time. So there's no reason why this story can't go wider and bring people together, because it's a story about two blokes wandering along the road with a metal detector and finding something that was different, and then following it through.
So, if the baby Buddha will return to the culture and the civilization that first gave it life, so looking ahead, whatever the outcomes, what do you most hope this journey creates in terms of relationship, understanding, or dialogue?
Well, our friend Nick, he always had this way of talking about people getting together, and he'd talk about it, and he had a passion for people of all different races getting together, and he'd do it like that. He'd say we all need to work together and interlink, and that's one memory that I have of Nick, so powerful, and then that continues with us now. So if Buddha's able to do the same thing, and us telling the story about finding Buddha and it go on to the next custodian, hopefully they will continue the story that we've been sort of doing for the last 10 years, but also we do not know where Buddha was before that. So there's a story within that that is yet to be found out. But yeah, it's sort of certainly Nick, and that's a picture of Nick in front of his great-great-grandmother's place in Shark Bay where she was born. And you can sort of see the sort of person that he is. And he's with us today on this journey.
It's kind of like a story not stop, just beginning.
Just beginning.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the last question, probably a very easy one. So tonight you will be attending the Chinese New Year dinner at WA Parliament, which is quite a different setting from where the baby Buddha was first discovered, right? So standing in that moment, as you look back on this journey, beginning in Shark Bay, what stays with you now?
Well, when the metal detector beeped and went really, really loud, there's no way we knew. Had an inkling that it was going to go in this direction, but we're so glad it has. To be able to tell the story, to meet the people that we've met, to travel to the places that we've travelled. You know, sort of Leon took the Buddha to the UK, to Antiques Roadshow, and showed people, and that was seen by millions of people on TV. And hopefully when we're working on a documentary coming up, we'll be able to show thousands and perhaps millions more people about the beauty about finding something, paying the proper respect to it, and it's just been an enjoyable, tough at times, but enjoyable, sort of journey.
Yeah, as Shane mentioned, I did take it to England, and I didn't know what the results, would be. We knew it was old. We'd had that proven by the laboratories, by Dr. McLeod, etc. here in Australia, but we didn't know how old or how precious. And so when a leading expert on Ming Dynasty bronzes came out on one of the biggest shows in England and called it a world treasure and called it priceless, that was a breathtaking moment. I was breathless, and normally I talk. I don't know any short sentences, but that moment will stay with me forever. That and the fact that I had booked a holiday, a cruise around the Mediterranean afterwards, and I had to take him with me to Rome and to Ubritz and to Croatia and to the Greek islands. So he is a very well-travelled Buddha now, and I get the feeling that he will continue to be so. We'd really like, whatever happens with this Buddha, and we've said this, that is our one unnegotiable, is that it doesn't get put in a box under a bed somewhere. We want this somewhere where it will be able to continue to tell the story of friendship.
So if there's a chance, you will deliver a message to the audience or to the people, just a couple of words or just one sentence, what would it be? Probably go with Shane first. Yeah.
I think we need to understand everybody and take time to understand people, and I think that's Buddha's teachings. Don't make rash decisions, think it through, deal with it in a calm, peaceful manner, put yourself in the other people's shoes and see things from their perspective, and we have more in common than we don't. So therefore, taking time and just calmness.
If I had anything to say to your listeners, I would say Shishir. Thank you. Thank you so much for the honour of this journey so far. Thank you for the humility that you have shown in the time that you have spent educating us about this object, the time you have spent welcoming us into your communities.
非常谢谢，感谢你们。Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing genuine thoughts and very touchable, emotional thoughts from you guys. It's my pleasure to see you guys in person and have this wonderful interview. Hopefully, you guys have the best journey from now on. and enjoy the dinner tonight.
Certainly
We
will.
certainly will. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.